a different level of masculinity, manhood, of husbandhood, of fatherhood, of being that's calling to you. It's calling to us. It's not more macho, it's not louder, it's not harder, but more still, steadier, more present, more dangerous, and more loving than anything that you've ever known. The question is, will you answer that call? Would you even be capable of answering that call if you want to? Most men never answer the call, and they never will. They don't refuse it consciously, but through distraction, through exhaustion, through calcified armor that cuts them off from the ones that they love, through becoming so hardened by the world that they lose access to their own heart. And if you're listening to this right now, you probably already know what I'm talking about, because you felt it. I felt it. You've lived it. I've lived it. The version of you who's grinding, providing, carrying everything. You wake up in the morning just wanting to play, just wanting to be with them, to love your wife, to make love to your wife. But you get out of bed, you get off to work because somebody's got to do it. You grind nobly. And you get home at the end of the day so worn out, carrying so much that you can't be with them. You can't play. You can't love the ways that you want to, no matter how badly you want to, because you lose yourself in the grind. And they lose you. Let me ask you a question that can change everything. What would it look like if you weren't buried by that? If your armor that you wore didn't cut you off from them, and the sword that you carried to work didn't cut your family when you got home, what would your marriage feel like? If your wife wasn't met by just what was left, and instead she was met by your presence, what would your children feel if instead of your distraction and tension at the end of the day, despite your best efforts, they felt you, your calm, grounded, emotionally available nervous system and self? What would it be like to be lethal and capable at work and in your body, level and unshaken by chaos, and open-hearted, loving, fully tuned to your wife and your kids all at the same time? This is the next level. There's a time in my life when I believed that harder was the answer. I was grinding harder than I ever had, building the business, this business, here, trying to make this work, making this work. And God knows I'm still giving it everything that I've got. Trying to create freedom and trying to shield my family from the uncertainty of living life beyond the cage and building this thing for ourselves. The pressure, the fear that I carried silently every single day. And it hardened me. It's the plight of the sole provider. You work your ass off to give your wife the ability to stay home with the kids, to raise them instead of some stranger doing it. But your work changes you. You struggle to connect to her in the same ways because you're exhausted, and so is she. She's worn out, overstimulated, touched out for being with these little balls of chaos all day long. And you don't want to burden her with your shit, so you keep it in. And that's, despite our best intentions, that's where the armoring begins. You're always on, and it's exhausting, and you don't know how to turn it off. You can't slow down. Your mind is still at work, even though you're home. It's a new kind of absent man, absent husband, absent father. Your mind is still on the stress, the uncertainty, the potentiality of unpaid bills. And you can't slow down, because slowing down equates to death. At least it feels like it. Somebody's got to keep moving, I relax, everything might fall apart. If I soften like that, I might lose my edge at work. And I might get behind. If I stop grinding, I might fail them. So we stay hard. Sleep when you're dead, we tell ourselves. We stay on. Here's what nobody tells you. Here's what nobody told me. Is that hardness works. It does. For a while. For now. It helps you survive. It helps you push through. It helps you build this life that you want for them, that you want so much for them. Money, food, shelter. But eventually that same hardness cuts you off from the very people that you're doing all of this for. And you can't provide the things that actually matter. Love, connection, relationship. You know that you felt it. I felt it. I was home, but I wasn't there. Sitting next to my wife, but we weren't connecting. We were coping next to one another. We might as well have been miles away, just wishing for the other one to look at us, to reach across this chasm of separation and distance and loneliness just for a second. My kids would run to me. Getting home is the most amazing part of the day. And I wanted to be present. But Daddy needs a second. Daddy needs a minute. I need a second to rest. Daddy's tired. I couldn't come down. I couldn't shut it off. Even on the floor with them, my mind is still elsewhere. It feels like you're not even in the same body sometimes. You're not even in this body. Like you're disembodied, dissociated. You're with them, but you don't feel it because you're somewhere else. Not in the garden of your family, but you're still in the fight, still in the grind, still in survival. And me, after I coped with the exhaustion and the thievery of the grind that was stealing everything that I wanted, that I was doing it for, I coped with it. An IPA, a glass of wine, no big deal, 3 to 4 days a week. Just wanted to take the edge off. Pornhub. Everybody does it, right? Because nobody ever teaches us how to come home, how to take the edge off in a way that preserves us in our heart and opens us up for our families. Nobody shows us how to put our weapons of work and sword and armor away, so we come home, armor still on, unable to feel them, and they unable to feel us. I just don't feel you anymore, she says. Where are you? Where have you been? Come home, our sword is still out. The chaos overwhelms us and we overreact, stabbing them with our sword inadvertently. We don't mean to overreact. We don't mean to have a short fuse. We promise that we're going to be better this time, and then we carry that guilt. It's not hard to stab them with it when we're wielding a sword in close quarters. It's not meant for the home. What we're doing isn't working, guys. It's not working. We need something different. God knows that in the high-speed technological age, things aren't going to slow down. It's only going to speed up. They're not going to get less stimulating. Less stressful. If we want a shot at living life with our family, instead of just in the same space as them, and giving them everything that we have to give, that they might grow into their fullest potential and expression of their God-given purpose in this life. And you know that you're doing this for your kids just as much as your wife. You want that for her too. You want her to just like bloom into her fullest potential and into her radiance and her beauty. God knows you want that for her. God knows you want that for them. We got to find a different way. The thing is, it's here, and it's always been here. Men have always had codes. In our modern world, we have no code, no honor. Boys are meant to just build that themselves and figure it out. Modernism, modern liberalism has tried to fill the gap, but there's something that's not right with that either. We know it. It's a neutering of everything that we are as men. The Spartans, the samurai, the men of old, these men, they were men who understood something that modern men have forgotten. Because they weren't just warriors. Samurai were known as, not the samurai, the Spartans were known as the most skilled debaters in ancient Greece. Men were terrified not just to square up against them, but to get into verbal negotiations with them. They were skilled dancers, artists. And the samurai weren't just warriors, they were gardeners, they were meditators, creators of this beautiful matcha tea ritual, poets, lovers, fathers, painters. They trained for lethality in body, mind, spirit. But they lived here and now. For the love that could be made here and now, not in their head, they were here, present with whomever, whatever was in front of them. Because nothing else was real. They woke in the morning and spent the first 10 to 15 minutes of their day standing outdoors. Hands on their hips, breathing fully and deeply, not forcefully, not like Wim Hof, but smooth. Feeling the interplay of everything inside of them, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Tuning into the sounds of nature around them, the smells, the sights, the feeling of the air on their skin, the feeling of the clothing on their skin, the taste in their mouth. Men who trained centeredness, deep presence. These were men known to be found bleeding, dying on the battlefield, holding poetry or having it tucked into their armor that they had written in their final moments. Not woe is me, but the beauty of the blossoms and the trees above them. Men connected to heart, to beauty even in crisis, even facing death. These are men who are evaluated by breath and feather, who, having a feather held beneath their nose, would be dismissed if their breath so much as ruffled that feather. Because they were trained to be grounded, unshakable, composed, not suppressing it, not repressing it, but containing it. Unshakable in the calm of the home and the chaos of battle, even in the presence of death, even staring it in the eyes, no matter what. Level, steady, unshakable. These are terrifying warriors who could kill and then come home and take their armor off and hang it in reverence and kneel beside the garden, caressing and talking to their plants. They understood that power wasn't just the ability to destroy. It wasn't just armor and sword. It was the ability to remain present, open, feeling through all of it. And to switch states when needed, depending on the circumstances. Depending on what was being asked of them. And this is the call for you. Not to become soft in some weak sense, but softer in a masterful sense. In the way that your children need, in the way that your wife needs. Because they don't need your sword edge nor your cold and impenetrable armor. They need you to be soft enough, receptive enough to connect and to feel them. Hard enough, strong enough, capable enough to protect and to provide and to grind, to be able to give them that safety and security, roof over their heads. And present enough to be with them and to give them the gifts that you have to give to them. Your heart. So what's the problem? How did we get like this? Well, we have a heroic intelligence problem as men. Suck it up, play hurt, do it for the girl. Even if you get a concussion, you devolve into disease when you get older, just do it. Our heroic intelligence comes at the cost of our health and relationship intelligence. We need to remember we're nothing without our health. We're nothing without relationship. And we have the modern high-speed technological world. 150 years ago, the average speed of light was 2.5 miles an hour, as fast as you could walk. Now it's light speed. You can get news of a murder on the other side of the world in less than a second. You can see more environments in 30 seconds scrolling on Instagram than your ancestors could see over many lifetimes. You can cuck more women in 30 seconds than 5 generations of your ancestors over the course of their cumulative lives. We're not built for that. We were built for surviving, awakening during the last ice age, and making sure that the peak apex predator of the time, the Arctodus simus, 1.5 ton and 40-mile-an-hour running bear, wasn't going to eat your lunch nor your family. Imagine coming face to face with that. You get up and walk around the bush. You're going to outrun him? Fuck. What about your wife and kids? What are you going to do? Your mind is racing. Epinephrine, norepinephrine. You can smell the stinky cheese breath. That adrenaline dropping into your bloodstream, because you either are going to have to fight it or you're going to have to run. You got your wife and your kids behind you, and you better figure it out now. Endorphins secreted to blunt the pain because he might get a hold of you. Digestion off. Sex hormones off. Wound repair off. Glucose dumped into the bloodstream for jet fuel. Heart rate elevates. Blood pressure elevates. Blood vessels stiffen to deliver all of that flow that's going to be coming through. Cortisol secreted in case this thing goes on for a while. You're going to be on edge for the next 4 to 6 hours now. And your mind in overdrive, coming up with 6 different plans all in that instant, not because monkey mind, but because it's survival mind. Only there is no bear. There's emails, there's bills, there's deadlines, notifications. People getting murdered for believing in Christ somewhere around the world. Mothers, children being kidnapped and sold into sex slavery. Politicians spitting and yelling at each other. Fucking children. And your nervous system does what it was designed to do. It gets ready to fight. It gets ready to fight the bear. Only this time, you don't get away from it. You don't get to rest when there is no bear. It's 24/7. It's chronic activation of your stress response. And the cost is anxiety. The cost is depression. The cost is high blood pressure, digestive disease, low libido, erectile dysfunction, erosion of your relationships. You're locked into beta brainwaves, the signature brainwaves of stress, losing 80% of the blood flow to the thinking parts of your brain, things that the area that makes you human. The regions of your brain built for reactivity, emotionality, impulsiveness, they grow. You lose access to everything that makes you human. Alpha brainwave of presence, of flow, the one that connects you to everything else that makes you human in terms of brainwaves. Theta, creativity, connection to other human beings and to life and to God. Delta, feeling, healing, recovery, love. You become efficient, productive, capable, disconnected, disembodied. That is the nervous system, the disposition, the scraps, the leftovers, the man that you bring home to them. Still activated, still armored, still fighting, still in war. Family doesn't get your heart because it's locked behind your armor. Instead, they get your armor, they get your sword, and they get the scraps, they get the exhausted guy that's left. Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan have these viral conversations. Is it better to be a gardener in a war or a warrior in a garden? Let me ask you this. What man walks through your door every evening? the warrior, the bear fighter, or the samurai of fatherhood, capable of doing those things outside the home, but capable of becoming the loving, nurturing gardener when he walks in the door. There's a difference between the warrior and the samurai. The warrior's locked in fight mode. He tramples the garden when he gets into it. He rapes the women of the conquered village. The wife is like, yeah, I'm just not in the mood. Not that you're physically going to rape her, but it's where your mind is. It's the neediness. The samurai knows how to sheath his sword. The warrior brings his armor into his home. He's messy. He breaks things. The samurai hangs it up reverently in its place. The warrior survives. The samurai adapts. And the difference is mastery of his state, his nervous system. Being an absolute beast and knowing how and when to tame it. How and when to switch gears from battlefield to garden, so he can actually enjoy everything that he does this for. It's better to be a warrior in a garden, a gardener in a war. You have to be both, gentlemen. And there's a reason why all spiritual traditions begin with breath. Why the samurai begin their day with it. It's in a word. Inspire, to breathe in life. Expire, to breathe out. Part of that is spirit, life force, all in the breath. They understood this. We've forgotten it, distracted by our phones, our medical technology. Pay attention to how you breathe. Pay attention to how you breathe when you're playing with your kids. Pay attention to how you breathe when you're actually relaxing. Not in your phone, but you're connected to them. Pay attention to how you breathe when you're laying and looking up at the trees, just leaves just blowing in the breeze. Pay attention to how you breathe when you're in this moment of love and connection with your wife and you're ravishing her, making love to her, how you breathe. Pay attention to how you breathe when you throw a ball to your kids, or when you're angry or irritated or frustrated or hurt. Because you'll notice that there's a breath linked to every state, and each one's a little bit different. And if you reverse engineer that, you might just realize that you can breathe in specific ways to induce those specific states. You might even realize that you can use your breath to alter things your doctors have said that you need to take medication for. There's just nothing you can do for it. That you have immense control, power over your state. And that it even influences people around you. This is called resonance. They come into resonance with your breath, with your state. And you know this, you walk into your house and your wife's been like, what's wrong with you? She feels it before you even say anything. So do your kids. It's relational energetics. It's not you, it's your nervous system. Imagine what you could do with that kind of power if you could alter that. Your breath is the bridge between war and home, between sword and armor and heart, between survival and joy and play and connection, relationship. When you inhale, you stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. That's alert, that's fight or flight, loss of blood flow to the thinking parts of your brain. Me versus you. When you exhale, you stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, rest, relaxation, rejuvenation, relationship. Everything comes online. We're here and in this together, here and now, you and me. Your breath is fast, you're in survival, stress, breathing through your neck, your shoulders, your jaw is tight, your shoulders are tight, that's where you've been. When your breath is low and slow, you enter coherence, mythical balance point, centeredness, synchronization of all systems in the body, presence, connection, where alpha, theta, and delta flare back up and come online again. Connecting you to presence, connecting you to connection, connecting you to relationship, the This is where leadership is, rather than being led by your stress brain and your impulsive reactivity and reaching for whatever you can reach for just to numb out to that stress, to escape it just for a second. All of this, guys, is trainable. In the gym, my career before this was personal training, nutrition coaching, lifestyle coaching, where you have the SAID principle. Your body makes specific adaptations to impose demands. You want to get stronger, you put some weight on that bar, you start lifting it. That's the adaptation. You want something, you train for it. Your body adapts. And the state that you desire so deeply to give to your family, what you desire to experience out of life too when you're not in the grind, is no different. Patience, presence, empathy, deep connection, feeling. It's not just an inherited trait. You just have it or you don't. Skill, like strength, like discipline. These men aren't just born. The mate, the samurai, understood this. They trained with this daily. Not just their bodies, not just their fighting skills, their nervous system, their presence, their feeling, their breath. And you need to do this too. At least if you want more for your life, more for your kids, more for your life. Or you can just keep passing this cycle of sword and armor and whole kind of different kind of absent dad. You can just keep passing this down. So let me ask you something else. When your children see you, do they feel your tension? Do they feel tension inside? Or do they feel, relax? It saves you. Do they brace to protect themselves? Or do they relax? Your kids don't respond to what you say. They respond to your embodiment. Who you really are underneath the surface. It's what you are. And this isn't just what you've done in the past. It's your nervous system. Always communicating. When you're calm and you're patient and you're present and you're turned on in terms of connection and relationship. You're turned on in your role as the gardener, the nurturer, the father, the husband. They feel that. This is the safe harbor effect. Your nervous system becomes the baseline in the home. You set that emotional tone. It becomes their blueprint, your presence, your self-regulation. That's their inheritance. You're not just raising children. You're programming their little nervous systems and their little brains. If you live in that hardness, like a dry noodle in your armor, they will too. Cut off, unable to feel and to love. If you live with your sword out, they will too. If you learn to hang those things up in reverence, to enter the garden of your family as the heartfelt, nurturing, feeling man that they need you to be and that they deserve from you, you give them something greater. The heart, the word says everything. He, masculine, art. This is an art form, guys. This isn't just hard, rigid discipline. This is an art. Love, safety, presence, the ability to fully become themselves, to be fully integrated adults because you showed them how to do that. We're providers. We have to be lethal and effective in the world if we're going to get anything done. Capable, strong, disciplined. But when we enter that home, we have to become the gardener. Because our family and love, they're not a battlefield, Natasha Bedingfield. They're our garden. They require our presence, our patience, our empathy, our deep connection, our softness, our attention, our care, our heart, everything that we have to give in here. Your wife deserves that too. The kids, you deserve that. Samurai understood this. They didn't live permanently in war mode. They transitioned intentionally, consciously, daily. This is the path of mastery. This is the new way, albeit, how do you say it? It's an old way. Not choosing the hardness, brittleness like a dry noodle, nor softness which has no structure destined to be trampled upon, but the ability to shift between both at the right time, depending on what the situation requires and what's being asked of us. That's the way of the uncommon, man. A whole new level. So I'll leave you with this. What would your life look like if you became the man who was hard to kill, but also easy to love? The one that your wife could feel again. Like really feel. The one that your kids knew could get on their level and feel into what's happening with them, rather than overreacting and shutting them down or reaching straight to discipline. What would your marriage become if your wife felt your presence and not your distance, your needy pressure, the ravaging warrior? She wants that from you, but maybe she needs to feel that safety first. What would your children become if they grew up inside your safe harbor instead of with you as a potential storm on the horizon? Or you as just something on the horizon that they can never get to, never touch? Who would you become if you could take that armor off, put your sword away, and instead of trying to numb out underneath counterfeit comforts, we're really here for it? This is the call. The call to become something bigger, something uncommon. Because if the common life is what we've been living, I don't want that. I sure as hell don't want my kids to live that. My wife deserves so much better than that. Samurai life, samurai fatherhood, samurai husbandhood, samurai relationship, lethal, level, loving, hard to kill and easy to love. It begins here. If you need something, if you got questions, if you want to answer those questions, you're just like, hey, help, or I just want to talk, email me, rob@robbilljr.com. Simple. I'll answer everyone. This is uncommon, gentlemen. This is the work. Thanks for being here. Have an uncommon day. Peace.